I'm Dr. Robin Koslowitz, YouTube's post-traumatic parenting expert. Today I'm going to talk about one hard and fast rule that I have for parenting, because I feel like a lot of parenting we can be flexible about, and there's actually no one true way to parent. There are a lot of approaches. I think there are some values that we should have as parents, but there's no like yeses and nos except for this one rule that I have, which is never, ever, ever lie to children. It is my number one rule for parenting success. And there's been some research that actually backs up what I'm saying. But for me, it is the number one rule. Never lie to kids. I'm going to explain why. I'm going to talk about the research and the types of lies that parents engage in and what to do instead. But first, if you like this video, if you are interested in important values and principles that parents can use in their parenting, if you know what you don't want to do, the kind of parenting maybe you experienced or maybe that you're witnessing around you, but you don't know what you actually do want to do, that's what we talk about here, because that's what post-traumatic parenting is all about. So click subscribe below so you never miss another episode. So let's understand what I mean by lying and what the research is. So first of all, there's been some research done out of Singapore. There's been a lot of research that parenting by lying leads to really poor outcomes in terms of the children in adulthood. That, adults who remembered their parents lying to them a lot had, less interpersonal skills, less life satisfaction, less great educational outcomes, and some even experienced sociopathic or unreliable behavior, which really shows, and again, self-reports when people are remembering their childhood might not be all that reliable. This is a correlation, and we know correlation does not imply causation, but it's suggestive. So there was a researcher named Hyman who studied why do parents lie to their kids if it's such a bad thing? And we all kind of intuitively know this. Don't lie to a child. Don't promise a child a lollipop and then not give them a lollipop, because you're going to harm your child's trust in you. So why do parents lie to their kids? What are some lies that your parents told you? And if there's a lie that your parents told you or other formative adults in your life told you, let me know in the comments below. So a lot of the lies that parents tell are what we call instrumental lies, right? I want my kid to finish eating their dinner for whatever reason, anything going from I'm worried about their nutrition to I abhor waste to I just want to be done with dinner time and move on with life. And I know if they don't finish their dinner, then a half hour into bedtime, they're going to be saying they're starving, whatever the reason is. Maybe I had food insecurity as a child and watching food go to waste is truly painful and triggering for me, whatever the reason is. So instrumental lies are lies like if you don't finish eating your dinner, then, there's a not eating dinner monster that will come and punish you. Or, let's think of other ones. If you don't finish all your food, you will get pimples. It's interesting because I never heard that one, but a friend of mine said that was one that she heard all the time growing up. If you don't finish your food, you're going to become ugly. So a lie like that where no, it's just not true. There's no scientific verification for the idea that if you don't finish your food, you're going to get pimples. I don't know that pimples are the worst thing ever in the entire world either, but that's going to create some body insecurity. But a lie like that, the zoo called, they're closed today, so we can't go, as opposed to I'm canceling our trip to the zoo because I have a work schedule conflict, right? It's sort of like an instrumental lie. You're saying it because you want the child to do something or to stop doing something, it has some sort of performative function. Another lie is lies about abandonment. The classic one, if you don't come with me right now, I will leave you in the playground. You're not going to leave them in the playground. If you would leave them in the playground, we have bigger problems aside from lying. But aside from that, if you're not going to leave them in the playground, you're going to make them feel very insecure. It's going to be hard to trust you if you would leave them in the playground. And if you don't leave them in the playground, you just told them a lie. So either way, but a lie about abandonment is another pretty common lie that parents sometimes use. Lies about misbehavior. If you don't behave, I'm going to call the police. If you don't behave, I'm calling Santa Claus. I have his private cell phone number at the North Pole, and he will not give you a present this year. Do that with any religion and any culture and anybody's myths, right? So the idea of like, if X, then Y, but it's a complete lie. Hello, is that Disneyland? Yes, I am calling to cancel our reservations for this summer. We will not be coming because Peter hasn't finished eating his supper, right? It's a lie. You aren't actually calling Disneyland. You're not going to be canceling the trip to Disneyland because someone didn't finish their supper. Again, if you would cancel the trip to Disneyland because someone didn't finish their supper, we have a much bigger problem than lying to your kids. But these kind of lies just create a sense of mistrust where the child doesn't know if what you're telling them is actually true. And it also is very harsh and drastic. The next kind of instrumental lie that parents very often tell are money-based lies. The ice cream truck doesn't let families buy ice cream 2 days in a row. I left my purse at home, so I'm not going to be able to buy you that treat. And then 5 minutes later, the child sees that you have your purse and you do have money with you. Or they get a little older and they find out that ice cream trucks actually don't have any rules about limits to ice cream purchasing days. In fact, they're quite happy if you buy ice cream 2 days in a row. And then that makes the child kind of doubt you and doubt their relationship with you. Because like if you were lying about that, maybe when you told me you loved me, you were lying about that. Maybe when you told me that you're always available to hear difficult things, and if I tell you the truth, I won't get in trouble. Like for example, the conversation that we very often have about confusing touch, where if something is confusing, come tell me. Even if you did something against your better judgment and you did that because somebody persuaded you to, I promise I won't get mad. I will listen and I will help you figure out the smartest thing to do in that situation. Well, Mom lied about the ice cream truck. She lied about having her purse with her. She lied about leaving me in the playground. She lied about the waste monster. So maybe she's lying about that, and I shouldn't tell her that my coach touched me in a confusing way because maybe she lied. Do you see how dangerous that is? So what I like to do instead, first of all, I want to now make a distinction. This is very different than sharing a metaphor or a cultural story or a myth with your child. Because people very often counter that with, okay, then Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, these are all, I can't find me any verifiable proof of any of these constructs, so are you lying to your kids? But I think there's room in society for a suspension of disbelief and a shared myth and a shared magic, right? Where as a child gets older and they discover that perhaps the Tooth Fairy is a metaphor for a parent celebrating the transition to growing up and becoming an adult. And this is like a fun game that parents and kids play. That's not a lie. That's a shared myth and a shared metaphor. And we have room for that in our culture, right? And kids get older and we remember that like famous, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus letter, right? Like the idea of there's a truth that is greater than the truth, right? There's a truth where, yeah, I don't know that I can find a fairyland where the Tooth Fairy lives and find you like documented evidence of her. And there's this truth of, wasn't that a fun game we played called the Tooth Fairy, right? And sometimes you might use a metaphor. And the same thing with a metaphor. When they get a little older, you can explain it was a metaphor. It's so sad that your pet died and now he became a star in the sky. I've heard like a lot of like Asian cultures have metaphors like that. And a friend of mine said that that's what her parents did, that they told her her pet became a star in the sky. And it was beautiful to her. And when she got older, she realized her pet probably did not literally fly up to heaven and then take his place in the firmament, but it was a meaning-making myth that made her feel good about this loss and this transition to my pet is now dead, right? And soon I'm going to get a new pet, but I'm sad about that other pet. So using cultural stories, cultural myths, is not the same as lying to children, because as they get older, you sort of update their algorithm a little bit. You give them more information. And you talk to them about, yeah, it was a great game. The Tooth Fairy was a great game. It was fun. It was a fun way of making the holiday special, of making losing a tooth special, right? And children understand imagination and play. That is very different from the ice cream truck doesn't let families buy ice cream 2 days in a row. The zoo called, they said they don't let children who act so wild come to the zoo. There's already enough wild animals in the zoo, which is something a friend of mine told me her mother once said, like, ouch. But on top of that, no, the zoos, like when you become an adult and you realize, like, yeah, zoos don't actually call parents and say things like that. They're quite happy for you to come with your exuberant children. That's what they're built for. They didn't actually call. It's confusing. And then what else did you lie to me about? Another lie. And that parents tell that is not harmful, and I think that there's ways to make this more truthful, are encouragement and mood-based lies. To me, these are not lies. When your child says, hands you like some sculpture that is either a mug or a self-portrait or a Picasso, and you're not quite sure what, and they're like, look what I made for you, Mom! And you say, this is so beautiful to me. Tell me about your artwork. That is not a lie. Perhaps it is not objectively beautiful on other people's standards, and perhaps it is not, going to immediately win, I don't know, pride of place at the Met Gala or whatever. Like, it's not going to be that, like, it's not going to be that, like, oh my gosh, my kid's a prodigy and he is now going straight to the head of the line in art school. But it's beautiful to me. That hopefully is never a lie, because every crayon scribble that my child has ever drawn is beautiful to me. Right? A kid's, saying something like, I'm the worst player on my team. And objectively speaking, they are indeed the worst player on their team. You are the hardest worker on your team. You are the practicer. You're the striver. You're the trier. Even though you're not seeing it pay off, you show up every day. I'm not lying. You may objectively be the kid with the lowest batting average on the team. Right? I'm not lying to you. But you keep showing up to practice even though you're the kid with the lowest batting average on the team? Wow, that's pretty impressive. I call that kind of lie radical honesty. Because to me, radical honesty is telling the truth that's underneath the truth, right? This piece of art is beautiful to me. It doesn't mean it's commercially going to be successful. There's other ways of judging beauty. You are the hardest trier on the team. You might have the lowest batting average, but you show up anyway. That is actually true. When it comes to the instrumental lies about finishing your food, about leaving the playground, about the ice cream truck, about the car that you really wanted in the toy store, but like, I don't actually have the money to waste on this car, and it's exactly like every other car you already have in the house. Radical honesty to me is telling them useful truth, right? So saying to a child, like, okay, you don't want to finish your supper now, but here's the rules. We have to finish our food if that's like important to you, and waste is important to you. So I'm going to save your plate. I'm going to put some plastic wrap over it. Later on, when you get into bed, if you're hungry, the only thing I'm planning on giving you is the rest of this food. So you can either finish it now or I can give it to you later. Because let's say you have a hang up about waste and you did give them an age appropriate portion, and it is food that should appeal to them. I don't love having battles about food, but if that's really a trigger for you because you had food insecurity as a child, okay. Right? Saying to a child, I get that your tongue really likes certain tastes and textures like chicken nuggets, and you were telling me you want to get better at soccer. The beta carotene in these carrots can actually help you get better at soccer because it's good for your eyesight, and having brightly colored nutrients is good for your body, and that's going to make you a better player, and that's going to make you in a better mood in school. All of those things, right? That's radically honest. This is why I want you to finish eating, right? Same thing with the playground. Okay, it looks like you don't want to come home, but here's the thing. It is 6:30 now, and we have to start bedtime at 7. So if we don't leave the playground right now, and 7 o'clock comes and we haven't, and we're just getting home then, we're going to have to skip that screen time that you like to do because we simply won't have time for it. Or how you like me to read you 3 stories before bed. We can stay extra now, but I'm only going to be able to read 1 story before bed because we won't have the time for it. Because time is a box and you can only fit so much into that box. Like, totally get that you want to stay in the playground. It would be so fun to stay in the playground. I get that. I get that you don't want to leave. And future you might be a little sad if we didn't leave, because then we're not going to have time to watch your favorite cartoon. So the idea being like, I'm radically honest with them. This is what the likely outcome of that is. Right? And the same thing with the no, because a lot of times people pleasers have a hard time with no. So saying that the ice cream truck doesn't let us buy ice cream 2 days in a row outsources the, power struggle to the ice cream truck man, like he's the bad guy. But if I say, I don't think it's a good idea to buy ice cream 2 days in a row, because then ice cream is kind of like blah and it's not a treat. So yesterday we had ice cream. We can have ice cream again the next time the ice cream truck man comes to our neighborhood, because he's usually here 2-3 days a week. So the next time we see him, but today we're not going to get ice cream. We have other treats at home, or, today is not a good day for ice cream. You can say to a child, oh, it looks like you really want that toy. Let's figure out a plan for how you can earn or get that toy, and what we can do to help you get that toy. Right now, I'm not going to be spending money on that toy. Right now, we're not going to get that toy, and own our no. That is giving a child a sense of like, my parent is the adult and they make the decision. And sure, that might mean a meltdown in middle of Target. Sorry, other Target patrons. My kid gets loud when they're upset. And of course, I'll do whatever it takes to try to calm them down and co-regulate with them and soothe them. But ultimately, my no is my no. Not because I left my purse at home, because that's kind of a dumb lie, right? Because in 10 minutes, when we get to the checkout counter, they're going to see my purse and they're going to know that my credit card seems to be scanning the groceries just fine. So, and then they're not going to trust me. So I'd much rather say, right now, that cute, I get it, that Paw Patrol car, it looks so awesome. You really want it. Today, we're not going to buy it. We can come up with a plan for a way that you can get it in the future. For right now, the answer is no, and I'm going to ask you to accept a no. And that's okay. You're allowed to do that, even if you're gentle parenting, even if you're responsive parenting, even if you're conscious parenting. You are allowed to say no to your kids. This is me, a clinical child psychologist, telling you this. You may say no to your children when it's a no. We don't need a lie in order to do that. So if you've been wondering about this, and you've been wondering about, like, wait, if it's bad to lie to kids, what about the Easter Bunny? If it's bad to lie to kids, what about, metaphors about, my pet is a star in the sky kind of thing? What about pretend and, telling them a story about a dragon and a knight and a princess? Like, that didn't really happen. But that's just a shared myth and a shared story. Parenting by lying mostly, I think, is expedient. It is associated with really bad outcomes, so it's not a great idea. I have gone to incredible lengths to try not to lie to children. Like, I remember once promising a child a certain game for his Game Boy. We're going back years. And I had ordered it, it didn't come. I had called my local GameStop, it hadn't come. My local GameStop, felt bad, and they found it in a GameStop that was like, I don't know, miles and miles away, at least a half hour to an hour drive away. It was a long time. Maybe I drove a half hour there and a drive, but I literally drove there and drove back and then drove to the patient's house, because this was like a reward that he had earned for something, to give it to him that night, because I don't lie to kids. And it's really important to not lie to kids. So whatever you do, if there's a lot of things in parenting that there's multiple opinions about, and you can listen to multiple opinions about those things, there's a lot of things in parenting like that, where you can do it, you cannot do it, it's okay. Never, ever lie to kids. But don't necessarily give them all of the truth either. Only give them the developmentally appropriate parts of the truth, right? And there are ways to do that. I once had someone ask me, like, how do I say that, okay, you don't want me to lie to my kids. My kids want to know why we're not going to my family's holiday party this year. How do I say that that my stepmother is one of the worst human beings that ever existed, and she was really rude and cruel to me, and therefore I am absolutely going gray rock and I am not going to her party? How do I say that to a 6-year-old? Sometimes Grandma Carol uses some hurting words, and this year she's kind of in the mood of using a lot of hurting words. I don't want you to be around hurting words. So this year we're going to stay away from her party, and like when her hurting words mood has passed, we're going to see if it's safe to be around her, because as a grown-up, it's my job to keep you safe. That is how you say lying, manipulative, horrible person to a 6-year-old in a developmentally appropriate way. Will grandma die? And saying things like, every person eventually dies. Right now, this particular sickness grandma has doesn't look like it's the kind of sickness that makes people die. but she might die. At some point, grandma will die. At some point, everybody will die. And then explaining whatever your cultural beliefs about death are, whatever you want to explain about death is. Just because grandma dies does not mean that we don't still love her, or we don't still have a relationship with her. There will always be a part of your brain that's all about your relationship with grandma. That will be here forever, right? That is radical honesty. That is the truth, developmentally adjusted for a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old. Never lie to kids. It just does not have great outcomes. And even if it's expedient in the moment, you're going to be paying a price for it in other ways. If you like this content, if you have a friend that needs to hear this kind of information, please consider sending them this video. Click subscribe below so you never miss another episode. And please comment, like, share, save. Just the post-traumatic parenting community grows one post-traumatic parent at a time. So I really appreciate and feel honored by your attention to this video today. If you agree, disagree, if you have something to say, comment below. If you have a topic suggestion for another video, comment below, and I will definitely add it to the list. If you want to hang out where your fellow post-traumatic parents hang out, check out at Dr. Koslowitz Psychology on Instagram. You can also look for the Post-Traumatic Parenting Podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, stay tuned because the Post-Traumatic Parenting book is coming out in 2025. There will be pre-sale and launch information. A lot of exciting projects around the launch will be happening very close to the launch of the book. So if you want to check that out, it's drrobinkoslowitz.com. Till next time.